The stage of Spotlight Tonight glowed under the harsh studio lights, a polished glass table reflecting the expectant faces of the live audience. The air buzzed with anticipation, the faint hum of cameras blending with the rhythmic tapping of high heels on the polished floor. Denzel Washington, a titan of Hollywood with a career spanning decades, strode onto the set with his trademark gravitas. His charcoal suit was impeccable, his gaze steady, exuding the quiet confidence of a man who had faced countless battles, both on screen and off. The audience erupted in applause, their cheers a testament to his enduring legacy. Tonight, he was here to promote his latest project, a documentary exploring the unsung heroes of the civil rights movement, a passion project he'd poured his heart into. Meghan Markle, the charismatic and polarizing host of Spotlight Tonight, greeted him with a dazzling smile. Her auburn hair gleamed under the lights, and her sharp wit was already on display as she tossed out a playful quip about Denzel's timeless charm. "You're making the rest of us look bad, Denzel," she said, her voice warm but with a glint of mischief in her eyes. The audience laughed, and Denzel offered a gracious nod, settling into the plush chair across from her. The co-hosts, veteran journalist Tom Reynolds and comedian Lila Chin, chimed in with light banter, setting a jovial tone. Behind the scenes, producers in the control room adjusted their headsets, ready for a smooth, ratings-friendly segment. But the air held a subtle charge, a whisper of something unpredictable. This moment, the show's announcer had teased earlier, will go down in television history. No one in the audience could have guessed how prophetic those words would be. The interview began predictably enough. Meghan asked about the documentary, her questions polished and rehearsed. Denzel spoke passionately about the project, his deep voice resonating with conviction as he described the courage of ordinary people who changed history. The audience hung on his every word, their applause punctuating his sentences. Tom nodded approvingly, while Lila tossed in a light-hearted comment about Denzel's knack for making even documentaries feel like blockbusters. The mood was warm, the energy high. Then, Meghan's tone shifted. Her smile remained, but her eyes sharpened as she leaned forward, her manicured fingers tapping the table. "Denzel, you've built this incredible career playing heroes, men of principle, men who stand up for what's right. But some critics say your public persona is a bit selective. You've stayed quiet on certain social issues, like the recent debates on systemic inequality in Hollywood. Why the silence? Is it easier to play a hero than to be one?" The question landed like a stone in still water. The audience's murmurs faded into a stunned silence. Denzel's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing slightly as he processed the jab. The studio's bright lights seemed to burn hotter, the hum of cameras louder in the sudden quiet. Tom shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his smile faltering, while Lila let out a nervous chuckle, trying to lighten the mood. "Oh, Meghan's going for the jugular tonight," she said, but her voice wavered, and the audience didn't laugh. Denzel leaned back, his fingers interlaced, his expression unreadable. "I've always believed actions speak louder than words," he said, his voice calm but edged with steel. "My work, my films, this documentary, it's about showing truth, not shouting it. I let my art do the talking." Meghan tilted her head, her smile now more calculated than warm. "But isn't silence a statement, too? Some say you're dodging tough conversations to protect your image. There's talk, rumors really, about you avoiding certain roles or projects that might stir controversy. Like that biopic about a controversial activist a few years back. People said you passed because it was too risky. Care to set the record straight?" The audience gasped softly, a ripple of whispers spreading through the crowd. A woman in the front row clutched her phone, already recording the exchange. In the control room, producers exchanged frantic glances, one muttering into his headset, "She's going off script." The director's voice crackled through, urging Meghan to pivot, but she ignored it, her eyes locked on Denzel. Denzel's face remained composed, but his knuckles whitened as he gripped the armrest. "I choose roles that resonate with me," he said, his voice deliberate, each word measured. "I don't run from risk, I run toward truth. That biopic? It wasn't about fear. It was about respect. I didn't feel I was the right man to tell that story. Someone else could do it justice. Meghan didn't relent. Respect, she echoed, her tone laced with skepticism. Or is it about keeping that heroic image untarnished? You've built a brand, Denzel. People love the stoic, principled Denzel Washington. But what about the man behind the brand? What about the tough choices you've avoided in real life? The studio fell into a suffocating silence. Tom tried to interject, stammering, "Well, let's talk about the documentary's impact." But Meghan waved him off, her focus unrelenting. Lila's eyes darted nervously between the two, her attempt at a joke dying in her throat. The audience was frozen, some leaning forward, others exchanging shocked glances. A producer in the control room hissed, "This is a disaster. Get security on standby." Denzel's gaze locked onto Meghan's, a storm brewing behind his calm exterior. He leaned forward, his voice low but resonant, carrying the weight of decades in the spotlight. "You want to talk about choices, Meghan? I've made plenty. I've fought for every role, every story, every ounce of respect in an industry that doesn't hand it out easily. You're sitting there, throwing darts, thinking it's a game. But you don't know the half of what it takes to stand where I'm standing." The audience erupted in scattered applause, a few bold claps breaking the tension. Meghan's smile flickered, but she doubled down, her voice sharp. "I'm just asking what the audience wants to know, Denzel. People admire you, but they also want to know the real you, not just the icon. Isn't that fair?" Denzel's eyes flashed, but his voice remained steady. "Fair? You want to talk about fair? Try walking a mile in my shoes before you decide what's fair." He paused, his stare cutting through her. "You're not ready for that conversation, Meghan. Not yet." The studio held its breath, the tension palpable. The cameras zoomed in, capturing every nuance, the bead of sweat on Meghan's brow, the iron resolve in Denzel's eyes. The director's voice crackled in Meghan's earpiece. "Wrap it up now!" But Meghan leaned forward, undeterred, ready to fire another shot. What would happen next? Would Denzel hold his ground, or would Meghan push him past his breaking point? The moment hung in the balance, a spark ready to ignite. Stay tuned for part 2 to find out. The Spotlight Tonight studio was a pressure cooker, the air thick with unspoken words. The audience sat on edge, their phones still raised, capturing every second of the standoff between Denzel Washington and Meghan Markle. The glass table gleamed under the studio lights, reflecting Meghan's determined expression and Denzel's steely resolve. The hum of cameras was drowned out by the pounding heartbeats of everyone in the room. Producers in the control room were in full panic, one shouting into his headset, "She's going to tank the show!" Security guards lingered at the edges of the set, their hands hovering near their radios, ready to step in. Meghan, undeterred by Denzel's warning, leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone. "Denzel, let's get personal for a moment. Your family, your wife, your kids, they've been in the spotlight too. There's been talk about how you've shielded them, maybe too much. Some say you've kept them out of the public eye to avoid scrutiny, especially after that tabloid story about your son's struggles a few years back. Care to share why you've been so protective? Or is that another truth you're not ready to face?" The question was a grenade, lobbed with precision. The audience gasped, a collective intake of breath that seemed to suck the air from the room. Tom Reynolds froze, his mouth half open, while Lila Chen let out a strangled, "Oh no, she didn't." The control room erupted in chaos, the director barking, "Cut to commercial! Now!" But the cameras kept rolling, the red lights unyielding. Denzel's face darkened, his calm facade cracking for the first time. His hands, once steady, clenched into fists on the table. The studio lights caught the glint of pain in his eyes, a raw vulnerability that silenced the whispers in the crowd. "You're crossing a line, Meghan," he said, his voice low, almost a growl. "My family is off limits. You want to talk about my work, my choices, fine. But you don't get to drag my kids into this for your ratings." The audience murmured, some nodding in support, others torn by the drama unfolding. A man in the back row whispered to his wife, "She went too far. Meghan, sensing the shift, tried to regain control, her smile tight. I'm not attacking Denzel. I'm asking about the man behind the legend. People want to know how you balance fame with family. Isn't that a fair question? Denzel's laugh was short, bitter. Fair? You think throwing my son's pain in my face on live TV is fair? You're not asking questions, Meghan. You're digging for dirt, hoping I'll break for your headlines. He leaned forward, his voice rising with controlled fury. I've spent my life building something real, stories that matter, films that lift people up. And you? You're tearing down for a soundbite. The studio was a powder keg. Tom tried to intervene, his voice shaky. Let's take a step back, maybe talk about the documentary's impact. But Meghan cut him off, her eyes blazing. No, Tom, the audience deserves honesty. Denzel, you can't hide behind your art forever. People want the truth, not just the hero. That was the breaking point. Denzel stood, his chair scraping against the floor, the sound echoing like a gunshot. The audience gasped, and the security guards tensed, stepping closer. But Denzel didn't move toward Meghan. Instead, he turned to the audience, his voice steady but resonant, carrying the weight of a lifetime. You want the truth? Here it is. I'm a man, not a myth. I've made mistakes, fought battles, and protected what matters most, my family, my integrity. This, he gestured to the set, the cameras, Meghan. This isn't about truth. It's about spectacle. But I'm not here to play your game. The audience erupted in applause, a wave of support that drowned out Meghan's attempt to respond. She stood too, her face flushed, her voice rising. I'm doing my job, Denzel. People have a right to know who they're idolizing. But her words were swallowed by the crowd's reaction, a mix of cheers and boos. Lila, desperate to salvage the moment, cracked a weak joke. Well, this is why I stick to comedy. But it fell flat, the tension too thick. Denzel shook his head, his expression a mix of disappointment and resolve. You want to talk about rights? People have a right to their pain, their privacy. You don't get to weaponize that for clicks. With that, he turned and walked off the set, his footsteps deliberate, the audience rising to their feet in a standing ovation. The cameras followed him until he disappeared behind the curtains, leaving the studio in stunned silence. Meghan sank back into her chair, her smile gone, her hands trembling slightly. Tom and Lila exchanged glances, unsure how to proceed. The director's voice screamed through the headset. Go to commercial, now! The screen faded to black, but the moment was far from over. By morning, the clip was viral. X exploded with reactions. #DenzelWalksOut trended worldwide, with users divided. Some praised Denzel's dignity, tweeting, "He stood up for what matters. Respect." Others defended Meghan, arguing, "She's just asking the tough questions. That's journalism." Headlines screamed, "Denzel Washington storms off spotlight tonight," and "Meghan Markle's bold move backfires." The debate raged online, in coffee shops, and on morning shows, with pundits dissecting the clash as a symbol of media overreach versus personal integrity. For Denzel, the aftermath was bittersweet. His documentary gained unprecedented attention, but the personal cost lingered. He issued a brief statement, emphasizing the importance of family and privacy, and returned to his work with renewed focus. Meghan faced scrutiny, her reputation as a provocateur solidified but her credibility questioned. Spotlight Tonight saw a ratings spike, but the producers knew the cost, a fractured trust with their audience. In the end, the clash wasn't just about two people. It was about the line between truth and spectacle, between public curiosity and private pain. Denzel's stand reminded the world that dignity isn't just a role to play, it's a choice to live by. What do you think? Did Denzel do the right thing by walking out, or did Meghan have a point in pushing for answers? Where should the line be drawn between journalism and respect? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more stories that challenge, inspire, and provoke. The dust settled slowly after the Spotlight Tonight showdown, but the echoes lingered. Denzel Washington returned to his work with the quiet resolve that had defined his career. His documentary, Unsung Heroes, soared to critical acclaim, its message of courage and sacrifice resonating deeply. Yet, in private moments, Denzel carried the weight of the confrontation. He confided in close friends about the sting of having his family's struggles aired so callously, a reminder that even legends bleed. His public statement, brief but poignant, struck a chord. "My life's work is for the world to see. My family's heart is mine to protect." Fans on X rallied behind him, posting tributes to his dignity, while others debated whether his walkout was a triumph or an evasion. The hashtag #DenzelSpeaks trended for weeks, a testament to his enduring influence. Meghan Markle, meanwhile, faced a storm of her own making. Spotlight Tonight saw a ratings surge, but the victory was hollow. Critics called her approach reckless, accusing her of prioritizing spectacle over substance. On X, some praised her boldness. "She asked what we all wondered," while others branded her a bully. Meghan issued a carefully worded apology, acknowledging she'd pushed too far, but defending her role as a journalist. Behind closed doors, producers scrambled to salvage the show's reputation, with Tom and Lila distancing themselves from the fallout. Meghan's charisma kept her afloat, but the incident left a scar, a warning that even sharp wit could cut too deep. The broader impact rippled through media circles. Talk shows reevaluated their boundaries, with hosts treading carefully around personal questions. Articles in Variety and The Hollywood Reporter dissected the clash, framing it as a clash of eras, Denzel's old-school integrity versus Meghan's modern provocation. For audiences over 55, the moment struck a nerve, sparking conversations about respect, privacy, and the cost of fame in a digital age. Many saw Denzel's stand as a beacon of principle, a reminder to hold fast to one's values under pressure. The question lingered: where does journalism end and intrusion begin? Was Denzel right to shield his family, or did Meghan have a right to probe? The debate raged on, a mirror to a world grappling with truth and tact. What do you think? Did dignity win, or was the truth worth the fight? Share your thoughts below.